You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. A quick reminder, you can watch the show on the go by watching and joining our YouTube live stream. You can also follow us across our social media platforms just to keep in touch with some of the content that you love to watch on Trust TV. Now, let's talk about the disquiet that is trailing the announcement of the relocation of some departments of the Apex Bank, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria headquarters from Abuja to Lagos. Well, the Arewa Consultative Forum and other northern groups, including lawmakers at the National Assembly, have voiced their concerns and reservations about this particular move. But just to set the tone of the conversation today, and before we introduce you to our guests, let's take a look at this report put together by Ibrahim Ismail, who sampled the opinions of some residents in the Federal Capital Territory regarding the planned relocation of the FAN headquarters, as well as some departments of the CBN.
The public debate began when the Central Bank of Nigeria said it will transfer some of its departments to the country's commercial capital, Lagos. Within the same week, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria FAN was directed to relocate its headquarters from Abuja to Lagos. Nigerians have received these decisions with mixed feelings and given the proposal different interpretations.
I say the development for me is encouraging. Why I'm saying it is that there are some people working reside in Lagos, but they are working in Abuja. Their families are there. They find it difficult of going and coming.
I don't think it's a bad idea, decentralizing certain powers. We're talking of Nigeria. They didn't move it out of Nigeria, you know. So what I think is decentralizing certain powers will also create further employment.
For all those people thinking that he's trying to move some of the offices out from the north, no, that is, for me, I think is wrong statement for them.
While some Nigerians support the relocation of some departments of the CBN and the Federal Airport Authority from Abuja to Lagos, others shared the sentiments of the Arewa Consultative Forum, which described the move as a deliberate plot against the northern region.
It's part of, how to tackle or to block some part of Nigeria as not as concerned, because they did not did it. So he made a lot of problem in the country.
The Federal Capital Territory is inside of Abuja. There is no means of taking one part of the CBN to the Lagos, since it's not the federal capital of Nigeria.
Better to leave this FAN and that CBN in this federal capital. Anybody you want to work with any state in Nigeria, you come to Abuja to work.
The Federal Airport Authority said it will relocate its headquarters to reduce costs and prevent the rot of FAN's abandoned building in Lagos, among others, while the CBN reportedly said the reason for this action is to decongest its headquarters in Abuja. Speaking on Trust TV's morning show, Daybreak, a veteran journalist, Suleiman Ubagaya, cast suspicion on the real motive behind the relocation of the said organizations.
Unfortunately, just about 7 months after taking over power, we are seeing the manifestations of the same rumor that started 14 months ago. It was denied, like I said, on the 30th of November, and now it's taking a life of its own. It started with the CBN, relocating almost half of its staff to Lagos.
However, there are still some Nigerians who believe that this is going to be in the good interest of the country, while others are aligning fears that this is just part of a hidden agenda from the Tinubu administration to weaken the North. Whether the president has a different plan of relocating the nation's capital from Abuja to Lagos, time shall tell. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Well, as is evident, the reactions are quite mixed. The perspectives differ from one point to the other. So let's get right into the conversation and interrogate some of the concerns raised by some of these groups in northern Nigeria who have, a suspicious belief that there is an ulterior motive attached to the planned relocation of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria headquarters from Abuja to Lagos, as well as some departments and operations of the CBN from Abuja to Lagos. Join us on the program to provide context and perspective. In the studio we have with us is Murtala Aliyu. He's the former president of the Quantity Surveyors Registration Board of Nigeria and also the former president Institute of Quantity Surveyors in Nigeria. He's also former Minister of Power and Steel of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Joining us virtually from Birnin Kebbi is the spokesperson of the Arewa Consultative Forum, Professor Tukur Muhammad Baba. Professor Baba is also the Dean, Faculty of Social and Management Sciences at the Federal University, Birnin Kebbi. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you, and thank you most kindly for joining us on the program. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
This morning. Okay, let's first and foremost start, from the studio, because we already know the position of the Arewa Consultative Forum, and I'll get to the spokesperson in just a moment. As a Nigerian, where do you stand on this? Clearly, this issue, this development, is polarizing viewpoints across the country. How do you interpret this decision by the federal government?
Well, I think the whole matter is a little bit insensitive. The approach by government to similar issues should be to engage stakeholders and explain certain things. You don't just come one morning and... You see, Nigeria has a federal capital. And there are reasons that we have this new capital. Years ago, Lagos was congested, and it became impossible to run the business of governance in Lagos. And a decision was taken as early as 1975, actually a little earlier than 1975, because it started during the Gowon's era, when looking for a place where the government can function properly. And that's the reason we came into the federal capital, come up with these projects. And it's a settled issue that we have the federal capital in Abuja. When Obasanjo was in power, when he became the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I also happened to serve in that government. The Nigerian Port Authority, which was locating then, or relocating to Abuja, was asked to march back to Lagos with the Nigerian, the MASA, the Maritime Authority. Yes. Authority. They both went back to Lagos. The reason was that what business do they have doing in Abuja? And I thought the important thing about governance is coordination. A relationship between those agencies and the centers of, or levers of power control. So those bodies are now back in Lagos. And I can tell you that it's not that they are doing operating nicely there. I recall when Hadiza Bala Usman in her book said she was met the MD, it took her time to even get accommodation as the MD of NPA in Lagos. So this is just one aspect. Secondly, I was also in the cabinet when the Nigerian Stock Exchange was remerged. During Abacha era, there was the Lagos Stock Exchange, and there was the Abuja Stock Exchange. The Lagos Stock Exchange was supposed to take care of the companies floated from the private sector, and the Abuja Stock Exchange was supposed to be for government companies that were privatized. The Obasanjo government again re-emerged the two, cancelled the Abuja Stock Exchange, and made it a commodity exchange, which has not been successful after this time, or picked up. So I think the issue is a bit frightening to see some reversal of something that has been a settled national issue. And the reasons given by both the CBN and the Nigerian Airport Authority don't sound convincing as far as we are concerned.
You don't think it's convincing that they say that more than 60% of its activities are in Lagos, and it already has a building in Lagos that can house its operations there that is wasting away? You don't think that those are cogent enough reasons to believe that 60% outweighs, is a good enough reason why we should have the base in Lagos.
In fact, it's a weakness in a nation when you have 60% of your operation in one location. It's a weakness.
I mean, isn't Lagos, the economic profile of Lagos, we know that the GDP of Lagos itself outperforms 29 states put together.
That is,
and that makes a lot of sense. It's like your New Yorks and your Londons, they outperform most countries in terms of air travel or traffic.
That is why the weakness is. That's why the weakness is. Where the
investors are going to where the money is, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why the weakness is. You understand? Most of the banks have their headquarters in Lagos. And there are two dimensions to supervision. There's on-site supervision and there's the off-site supervision. The staff for the on-site supervision are already in Lagos, as I'm talking to you. And for the off-site, I mean, we are here talking, somebody's going to join us from Building KB. So with the modern technology, there's no need to move all their people to one location. And I think the important thing is to try and expand the economy for the benefit of the country. If Lagos has 20 million people, assuming they have 20 million people, that's just...
They actually have over 20 million people.
That's just about 10% of the country's population. Right. Now, if you have the whole basket, placed in one, location, and that's why everybody will dip his hand. One day we will all relocate to Lagos. So the issue is issue of coordination, and the relationship between the central bank and coordination at the center is what is important, not the activity, not the actual foot on the ground activity.
Right. Okay. Let's bring Prof into the conversation, the spokesperson of the Arewa Consultative Forum. Professor Mohammed Baba, for some people, critics of the position of the forum, they say you're making a storm out of a teacup. You're making a storm in a teacup, basically by crying wolf. That if your argument is Abuja is north and North Nigeria and Lagos is somehow a different part of the country, that you're only rallying the country, or this part of the country, the northern part of the country, against President Tinubu, when clearly the government is just going about doing its business of governing the country in fairness.
Let's be clear, the North cannot be undermining President Tinubu because 64% of the votes that made him president came from the North. So it cannot be true that the North is against him. On the other hand, it's actually the other part, especially the Southwest, that makes it look like every move, the North is counter and has to be countered and has to be rejected. I mean, the whole thing about moving to Lagos is just one aspect. The central bank moving back to Lagos is just one aspect, as we pointed out in our release, out of a series of events that has been going on. And Alhaji Aliu has just pointed out, it started with the Nigerian Ports Authority, Shippers Council, Nigerian Stock Exchange, International Nigerian Institute for International Affairs, the railway. I mean, it's been a progression, and when it continues, and there is no stop to it. Obviously, it leaves room for suspicion. There must be some move behind it, and all we are saying is bring it out. Let's talk about it openly, and so on. New York is the financial center of America, if not nearly the whole Western world. But the Federal Reserve Bank does not have to be in New York. So, I mean, the argument, it's a double-edged sword that can cut both sides, in my opinion.
Right. And what do you say to people who say, where is the evidence to show that there is an ulterior motive or something to undermine the northern part of the country? Because the government has clearly given its reasons as to how this is strategic. This is about saving resources. This is about efficiency. This is about productivity. And also, this is in the best interest of Nigeria. So where's the argument to support that somehow Lagos is being favored?
The argument to counter that is in the very reasons we have been given. Now, there seems to be a systematic chipping. listed them. It did not start with this government, for God's sake. It started way back in 1999. So, of course, this government should not feel claustrophobic that is being pushed to a corner. It is not. We just want an open government, straightforward reasoning, and one of the cardinal principles of going back to Abuja, from relocating to Abuja from Lagos, is for a sense of inclusion, for a sense of fairness, and then so that there is equidistance for all parts of the country wishing to access government services.
Well, for some people, Prof, from the statement of the Arewa Consultative Forum, it's clear that Abuja is not the center. Abuja is the north, or Abuja is part of the north. And also, there was northerners who were running the country then who decided to move the capital from Lagos to Abuja. And if the argument was not made before that it was to undermine the southwest, why are we making the argument now that this move to move a handful of government operations?
That is a manipulation. That is a manipulation.
But also,
you are saying that the military government that made, you can only make that argument if the military government that took the decision was consisted only of northerners. By the way, just yesterday I said on your channel that the panel that investigated and recommended Abuja was headed by Southwesterners. And it had everyone that you can think of. Akin Mabogunje played a very critical role in the selection of this center. That's one. And, why do we have to think of government only in terms of who is in power and where they are from? Like I said, it's not just this government. It's been going critical questions. This is a democracy. People should not expect that every decision of government must be taken and accepted by all, and that's all. That's to me, I think that is putting democracy on its head.
Right. Okay. So it's safe to say that for some people they say, Prof, why don't you take your advice? Like, you can express your displeasure about this decision, but it doesn't make it wrong. That the Tinubu administration, at the end of the day, as far as its own statements are concerned, is taking decisions that's in the best interest of the country, and it is the one in charge, and perhaps should deserve the benefit of doubt that it is doing the right thing in the best interest of this country.
Well, then why don't we declare a dictatorship so that we have a benevolent dictatorship that decides for everyone? It's in your best interest, whatever you think, and so on. That's the argument you are making, and to me, it's unreasonable.
Right.
That's it's not a dictatorship.
Okay. Let's bring the conversation.
And like I said, why is it seen as? Why is the reaction of the Arewa Consultative Forum, just a consultative forum, seen as anti-Tinubu, when we are pointed out, and we still insist that this is only the latest in a series of moves that raise questions, that brings suspicion, and so on. So why? I mean, the government should not feel besieged by anybody. This is a democracy, and we talk, we contribute to enrich the policy-making process and decisions that are in the best interest of all concerned. Of course, if you ask me, I would like the central bank to be relocated to my village, but it's unreasonable, and my village people would be very happy with me for that. But it's unreasonable. It's not something I even contemplate.
Okay, so let's bring the conversation back and bring in Alhaji Murtala Aliyu back into the conversation. I mean, realistically speaking, the operations of the federal government, right, and its institutions, more than 90% are still here in Abuja. So what is the big deal? For some people who are saying, listen, I don't see a big deal out of this whole situation. We still have most of the federal operations still here in Abuja. Why is this a source of concern in your view?
The issue of that, that's making it peculiar, is the issue of the economy. The North is weak economically, and it should not be further weakened And I think that institutions that promote...
Weakened by design?
Well, either by design or not, the issue is a decision that will weaken the activities of the economy. I'll give you an example. Because most of the headquarters of the banks are in Lagos, every single transaction you hold, either in Maiduguri, in Birnin Kebbi, in Osogbo, are registered in Lagos. And so it's by default. It's not by default that when you see banks declaring profit and paying tax to Lagos, you understand. You find that it's because the activity you do in Gashua is also registered in Lagos. So I think what we do is when we're talking about things like restructuring and so on, these are the kind of things we look at. We look at a situation where you diversify things so that other parts of the country don't feel so changed. Because the truth is, when you have the central bank, which coordinates the economy, now located in a farther corner where most of the activities are, you find that the fewer banks who are weak, that are weaker outside Lagos will have to be reaching out back to Lagos to do that.
What do you say to Westerners who say, where is the Nigeria Defense Academy? They say it's in Kaduna. Where are all these other institutions? They say they're in Abuja. And they say all of this is in northern Nigeria, and they're not raising eyebrows on it. So why doesn't it make sense that since Lagos is a part of the Nigerian economy, that at the end of the day, we have, you don't have the Niger Deltans who are complaining about the location of NNPC not being in the Niger Delta, where more than 90% of the oil that comes in from.
Don't get it wrong, please.
If they're not making that case.
Don't get it wrong, please. We're not saying that these things are located in the north. We're saying they're located in the federal capital of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, if you tell me that
which is a part of the north.
If you tell me that Abuja is part of the north, then I will tell you that Lagos is part of the southwest. You understand?
But Lagos is part of the southwest.
Exactly. But Abuja is epicenter from every location of the country.
But we also know that its location is in the north central part of the country.
Is there anybody that feels so changed by Abuja? The population of Abuja
it's predominantly northern.
No, it's not predominantly northern, please.
You wouldn't say it's predominantly northern?
No, it's not predominantly northern. I mean, look at the statistics.
Well, if it's not northern, then why are northerners making a big deal out of this move?
Because of accessibility. If I'm coming from Gombe to this place, it's shorter for me than going to Lagos from here, for God's sake. And the same thing for somebody coming from Makodi or from Uyo or from Kontagora. You understand? So it's the issue of location we're talking about. And also, not only just location. This is where the control is. This is where the levers of government is. So why do you want administratively? Yes, administratively.
But when it comes to the Federal Airports Authority, the argument is operational. It's not administrative.
Did you see the story about the shortchanging of the other ports like Calabar, like Port Harcourt, like Warri ports, because MPA is located in Lagos? If MPA were located in Abuja, every port will be important, and you can open up.
But there are no ports in Abuja. It doesn't make sense to have.
What I'm saying is that it's not the location of that you now look at the whole country, not where you are operating. Because MTA is in Lagos, what is important to you is Apapa, is Tinkan, is Snake Island, it's all that. Yeah, and you are not concerned about Uyo, you are not concerned about Calabar, you are not concerned about Warri, you are not concerned about One ports, and so on. That's the point.
It's like having a gas cooker in a living room or having a bed in a kitchen. It doesn't fit, isn't it? Especially when you consider how the operations need to be close to the administration.
You are broadcasting to the world,
right?
Not just Abuja. You're here, you're in Abuja.
Yeah, but this is different.
No, it's not different. It's not different. You can manage the economy, you can manage the banks from here. And like I told you, there are two levels of inspection. The on-site inspection has already been situated in Lagos, the on-site inspection. You know?
Yeah. Regarding the movement of some of the operations of the CBN and some of their staff from Abuja to Lagos, the former CBN Deputy Governor Kingsley Moghalu said that the Lagos office, completed and inaugurated approximately 12 years ago, right, has been underutilized. He also explained that the staff at the Abuja headquarters exceed the health and safety limits of the building, hence the need to relocate. And he says he doesn't see any strong basis.
It's not about the location. It's not about putting the staff there.
Right.
The issue is about moving departments there. The issue is about moving departments there.
How is this inimical in any way, shape or form? If the CBN says we can do it, we can have other departments in Lagos, as they do have their zonal operations and things like that.
Good, they have zonal operations. They have almost every agency in the federation has zonal operations.
So if CBN says
what is happening,
we can run
what is happening to the cash center, the office in Garki that was the original head of the is also almost empty. There's a big clinic by it. Why can't they operate? Why can't the staff move there? Why must they move out? And why they move to Port Harcourt or Maiduguri or Kano?
It's barely 8 months for the Tinubu administration. Would this same argument have been put forward if it happened under President Muhammadu Buhari and the federal?
If you recall, the ACF had not been quiet on Buhari.
No, I'm saying with regards to this particular decision, because it feels like we have a southern president and the northern part of the country is unhappy about this move. I mean, not all the northern part, but groups from the northern part.
When I spoke about the Calabar port and the Port Harcourt port, I'm not talking about ports in Nigeria. I'm talking about opening up the economy of the north, of the country. If you have everything coming in from one location, Lagos, even our road networks, our logistics and so on are suffering. Open up the space, for God's sake. And then when the space has been opened, now you are not to recongest it again.
You think Lagos is congested because it has the Ports Authority, and now FAN is going to be relocated and some operations?
Whether those ones are not there, they are there or not, Lagos is already congested. So don't further congest it.
Congested of economic activities or
of everything, everyday life. If you have been in Lagos, I've been in Lagos recently, and I mean, it's not a pleasant way. So the issue of getting ease by going to Lagos is not a good argument. And like I said at the beginning, you see, when governments or institutions take this kind of decisions without stakeholder engagement, it breeds this kind of thing, suspicion. If we've been engaged, okay, this is the reason, we're moving this, it will not affect this, it will not affect that, people will understand. But this is how the matter of MPA just moved, they moved, now FAN was moved to Abuja barely 2 years ago. They said, okay, go back, we have empty buildings there. So what happens? No empty buildings there? What about the other airports?
They said nothing will happen to the operations. Abuja is still going to get service without any sort of hitch.
Look, the issue is about the location of management of power. That's all.
But the ones who were voted to run this country, right?
It's good. It's okay.
Say that
they
can do it.
It's okay. The issue is don't start something, that will form a trend. Another president will come and now relocate it again, and then it will become like a joke.
Yeah, but these things are not static, as you know, as someone who has been in government.
As a serious
policies change, directions change, and the realities of the economy change, and you have to move with it, isn't it?
Yes, but you see, when it becomes trivialized, to the level that everybody who comes to power begins to tinker with things, becomes a problem.
Right.
There's a way you can expand your operations. Nobody says, look, everything should be operated from Abuja. There's a way you can expand your operations without causing a stir.
Okay.
By moving departments, you want to say, we are moving departments. When you say, look, you want to populate your Lagos office, I'm sure there wouldn't have been a problem. But when you're relocating departments, what does that mean? Very soon the governor also will move there. Isn't it?
Okay, I'm not sure there's a plan to do that, but if they do make the decision, I suppose they will have some explanation to it. Let's bring up Prof into the conversation. Prof, for the most part, Nigerians are saying, listen, you just stated the obvious. The North gave President Tinubu, then candidate Tinubu, over 60% of the vote that gave him the victory in the 2023 general election. So why not let the man run the country in the best way he knows how to, and perhaps offer your opinions about these things without necessarily making it look like he has an agenda against the North, because your statement was quite critical about what you think is happening systematically to the northern part of the country, and the administration is barely 8 months in.
I think you are missing the point. I kept repeating again and again that we are talking about a pattern dating back to 1999, we are also talking about a pattern of displeasure with the relocation of Abuja dating back to 1975. You keep bringing it to this regime as if someone is against the regime. Just a little while ago, talking to Murtala, you call the president a southern president. We don't see it that way. He is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not a southern president.
I don't recall saying southern
I think
president.
we need some conceptual clarification on that. Secondly, you talk about the north being, Abuja being in the north, predominantly north, the population is predominantly north, which is not true. Abuja is not north. Abuja is constitutionally the capital of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let's get this straight. And it's a home for all. The fact that right now, every Nigerian has a home in Abuja. I'm sure every state, every community, if you go in this country, you will find someone who knows someone who is in Abuja. So I think we should get it clear. And I'm not comfortable with you sitting here interrogating us as if I'm talking to some government spokesman from the National Orientation Agency, Radio Nigeria, the NTA. No. Look, let's not trivialize this to anti-President Tinubu or anti-anything. And I'm comfortable sitting down here listening to you, reducing it to such primordial and provincial arguments that this is how can anybody be against the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, from whom every one of us has a legitimate expectation to make and has a fundamental duty to support him, and which we are doing.
Prof, just to be clear, I don't recall calling President Tinubu a southern president, but
you did. I was listening. You did.
Okay,
maybe after the program you can listen to the chat. You did.
So if for some reason you did hear me say
is predominantly northern, it is not.
Okay. I think the point we were making earlier is about the location of Abuja, and he did say it's Lagos Southwest. I said it's a fact. Lagos is in the southwest, and we can also admit that Abuja is in the north central, because that is its categorization as far as the 6 geopolitical zones are concerned. And we do have the Northern Emirate system here in Abuja, and that's why I said it's predominantly north. However, I'm just channeling the arguments of some part of the population. I cannot be seen to be taking any sides, and that's why I'm projecting those concerns that have been raised so that you can provide clarity to some of those questions that have been raised. And I'm only channeling them, not because they are my personal opinions or I'm holding brief for the government or the president, or I'm assuming that you're against it. But the message comes across as if the federal government has an ulterior motive that is anti-North. And that is why I'm asking those questions in that particular manner. But to get
and
your
again,
take...
Here I will challenge you. You just said Abuja is under the Emirate system. If I will ask, who is the Emir of Abuja? I mean, you are bringing all these conceptually ambiguous statements that make me want to question the perspective from where you are coming. Let me ask you, who is the Emir of Abuja? You said is under the Emirate system.
Well, okay, we have district heads.
There's been resistance to even make a mayor of Abuja, and there you are sitting down across from me calling it under the Emirate system.
We do have district heads.
Emirate system.
We have district heads.
Does it operate? Is it within the constitution? Does it have constitutional power?
Right.
And so on. But more fundamentally, Emirate of Abuja, come on, give me a break.
No, Prof. I say that to make the point that they have the district heads that are quite similar to what you would have in Nasarawa, in Kano, in Adamawa, in Gombe, in other parts of the north. And that is the point I was making, not to suggest
it's all over. I mean, I come from Taraba. We have the Emirate system. We have the traditional system. They are all over. It's not unique to anyone.
Okay.
So, I mean, when you call it Emirate, I mean, is my kingdom an Emirate system? Look, let's keep the conversation logical and emotions free.
Okay, Prof, as an academic,
me with the Abuja under the Emirate system, you can understand my confusion. I mean, I shook my head. What is he talking about?
Okay. Maybe we agree to disagree on the terminology, but I think the point I was making is that there are some similarities that is easy for people.
Terminologies are very important in the social existence of people.
Right.
Language is very critical.
Okay, Prof. In talking about
words have a life of their own.
Right.
I can assure you, it's my field.
Okay. Talking about the position of the Arewa Consultative Forum, did you at any point in time before you got to this position, as you said, you're talking about something that has been systemic, a pattern that has been developing for over 2 decades. Was there any sort of back and forth in terms of sharing your concerns before going public with this, with the Tinubu administration, to say, listen, we've had this feeling for quite some time, and we think the way you're about to do right now is going to further deepen our suspicion about what has been ongoing for the past 2 decades. If you have reached out to the government, can you please confirm what the feedback was?
No, I cannot tell you that. What I can tell you is that the Arewa Consultative Forum is what it says. It is a consultative assembly that tries to consult each other on matters of common interest. Whether we have reached out to the government is not the issue. You don't have to rush to government every time. I'm neither confirming nor denying or anything, but I'm saying we don't have to. I can relate to an issue as soon as it emerges. I don't need permission from anybody. Of course, we will reach out to government. It's a government that services the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Of course, we will make input. We have representatives and we have people in government and so on. You have just said that even the National Assembly is coming in there. So you don't make it. I think I'm comfortable with your inclination trying to make it as if the Arewa Consultative Forum is a political opposition and so on. And all this idea that we don't like the president, we cannot afford to. We cannot afford to.
Yeah, I don't think that was the point I was making, but the point is, did you at any point in time?
Then today your points are coming out very ambiguously. I think we need to be very clear on our terms. To be honest with you, I'm a bit uncomfortable with some of the what I think is the perspective you are coming from, at least in the usage of the words. Let me emphasize, the Arewa Consultative Forum is not opposed to this government. The Arewa Consultative Forum has the deepest respect for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Arewa Consultative Forum, like many other organizations, would like to make input to the policy process. We are not in opposition.
Okay, Prof, if I can get a word in, Prof, yes or no, did the Arewa Consultative Forum share its concerns with the government before coming public?
Can I answer that, please?
I mean, he's the spokesperson. If he can,
yes, he's the spokesperson, but I'm Secretary General.
Right.
So I am the one to tell you whether we're reaching out or not.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes. Before, when President Tinubu was still a candidate, we invited all the presidential candidates, and we gave them what we considered as the northern concerns, and we expect that these are things that he will address in the course of his tenure. But also, we have also written him officially now, asking to see him. But we cannot wait until we see him before we react to issues when they are hot in the plate. So we right now, as I'm talking to, we have a letter that is asking for an appointment to see him and discuss not just this, but quite a number of issues that are.
So you've jumped the gun?
We're not jumping the gun. Like Prof said, we're not going to wait for issues that are already burning issues and keep quiet until we get...
But you didn't hear the administration side of
we're not supposed to look for that. They are supposed to look for us and say this.
They've released a statement that you're clearly not
comfortable with. So we've written to say we're going to see the president. As I'm talking to you, like I said, the letter is already there.
Okay.
And then we're not going to, let me say, just for the benefit of the future, we're not going to wait for government to say, come. When we will, if something happens tomorrow, like, we're going to react. Okay? But in the course of time, we'll sit down and engage government, and then we discuss.
If I can come in.
Yeah, sure, Prof. Go ahead.
If you allow me to come, if you allow me to come in, when bandits, terrorists abducted students from the Federal University Gusau, the Arewa Consultative Forum was the first to issue a statement drawing implications to that. Did we need to inform the government before we did that? When there was an incident at Tudunbiri in Kaduna State, and we drew attention to that, are you saying that we should wait until we inform the government this is what has happened and this is what we are reacting? Come on. This is a democratic country. And like I said, please don't try to make the president the dictator that he is not. Don't make this political system the dictatorship that it is not. It's an open conversation.
Prof, now I'm uncomfortable with your position, because at no point in time did I describe the president as a dictator, so I don't know where that is coming from. But if I can just ask you a straightforward question. Before the 20...
When you say, did we reach government before coming public, it means we have no opinion outside of our communication with government.
I only asked if you had an engagement with them. I didn't assume that you need permission, because we certainly are not asking for the government's permission to discuss this on national television. But to the political side of it, because you've talked about that as if you've talked about the question whether the Arewa Consultative Forum is not in support of the Tinubu administration. But in 2023, you had a candidate, you supported a candidate that wasn't President Bola Tinubu or candidate Bola Tinubu. And that's why the questions are coming up. Is the Arewa Consultative Forum rallying?
Did we do that?
Totally wrong.
Did we support?
It was reported.
No.
It was reported.
Did we? No.
Right.
We've never.
On the other hand, the
Sorry,
Arewa
Prof.
Consultative Forum gave
We've
all
never
the
supported
leading
any
candidates
candidate.
a chance to speak to
in fact,
the Arewa Consultative Forum did not come out to oppose.
We didn't oppose a candidate. We didn't support a candidate. What we did was we gave a chance to all the candidates to come and tell the country and tell the people what they have. In fact, it was ACM in collaboration with some other 5 groups that did that for the first time in this country, to put the candidates to say, okay, look, tell us what to do. We didn't cite any candidates.
So this reporting that says that the Arewa Consultative Forum said that the presidential candidate of the PDP is has been endorsed as a candidate.
That's Northern Elders Forum. Never.
I can almost see your name here on the Punch newspaper that reports that through its Secretary General Murtala Ali,
we have never,
in a statement,
we have never,
on a Sunday,
we have never
urged Northerners and
I'm telling you, I'm here.
Right.
Not Punch, I'm here.
So this reporting on February 2023 is not true.
We have never supported a single candidate, any candidate.
Right.
We're not partisan.
Right.
Okay? What we want is a good president for the country, and we made it very clear. Okay? If look, it's not that we're afraid to support anybody, but it's not in our policy to do that. And we're not going to do that anyway. But we're going to make sure that whoever is going to govern this country comes with an intention to do the right thing. And we'll challenge you. That's why we'll have the gravitas to challenge you if you do the wrong thing.
Right. Okay. Just to clarify for Nigerians who are not necessarily interested in the regional element of
before
the conversation.
Before you do that, sorry.
Just let me get to the question, because it's a polarizing issue. You heard from our reporting there where Nigerians are in support, Nigerians are also against this one. What is the objective way of looking at it? Also knowing fully well that the government has the constitutional power to govern this country. I mean, people can have their opinions. Not every government policy or decision, and I reckon as minister, while you were still serving, not all the decisions that was taken under the Obasanjo administration or even within your ministry is popular or accepted by everybody. But You had a perspective that you thought it was the right thing to do, and you went ahead and did it. And I suppose that is also an element of leadership, that sometimes you have to take unpopular decisions that will, in the long run, serve the interests of the country. Give us a perspective that runs away from the fact that the North is being undermined, because for some people that is the wrong way to look at it.
Have you read the reports we released? Our release. Have you read it?
We've read it several times.
Now, if you read it, what we said the government should do. In fact, we called on the president to watch out on his agencies. We didn't say the president or the government is pushing those things out. That the agencies are doing that, and we hope it's not a plan by government to do that. If it's not a plan by government to do that, government should watch out and make sure that this is appropriately done. There's nobody pointing finger on the president himself or on government itself. But the issue is, if agencies of government are doing that, the government should be sensitive to that, because you see, this is a democracy. This is a democracy. And you should be aware of the sensitivity of your voters, period.
Yeah, but also, what if there are other people who are pushing for something different? How do their own
people will always push for different things.
Right.
At the end of the day, you should use your judgment.
It's the prerogative
to know,
of the president,
as a president, to know what is right. And I'm saying that it shouldn't be a pattern, because it can be a pattern. That's all.
Okay, Prof. Just before we go, is there an end game here to say, perhaps if you have an opportunity to meet with the president, you're going to press on certain deliverables? And are you open-minded to understand why perhaps this move to relocate the headquarters of FAN to Lagos is in the best interest of Nigeria? Are you open to what perhaps might counter your perspective at this point?
Of course, we are always open to superior argument if available. Now, again, let me say I'm a bit uncomfortable with your approach. In our release, we pointed out another pattern, which you have completely failed to acknowledge. A contract was given for setting up a plant to assemble firefighting vehicles, which was cited in Katsina. Only recently, the contractor came to say Katsina is not more than a year after the contract was awarded. The contractor is now saying it should be relocated, I quote, to the south. If you have not seen a copy of the letter, is trending on social media, I will send it to you after this program. How do you expect us to react to this? This was a contract, there was a scope clearly defined. The contractor put in a bid, I suppose. The contractor won. And today, 1 year later, the contractor is saying, oh, Katsina is not a good place. We don't have skilled manpower there. Moving equipment from Lagos to Katsina is tough. Is this? Where was the contractor when the scope were given out? And you are saying we should keep quiet over all these things. Of course, we shouldn't. Now, let me go back to your question. We are very, very much open, and we'll be very glad if the president will give us audience and will give every organized group an audience to discuss about policy matters in Nigeria with a view to coming out with a solution that satisfies nearly everyone. Of course, not everyone will always agree 100%, but we want a dialogue that will enhance the process of reaching a consensus that will be for the good and welfare of all Nigerians.
Right, Prof.
It's not a fight. It's not a war. It's a discussion. It's a debate. And it's civil.
Okay. A very heated and sensitive one for that matter, I might add. Prof, we're going to have to leave it here for now. I did enjoy the spirited conversation. Professor Tukur Mohammed Baba is a professor, the Dean of Faculty of Social and Management Sciences at the Federal University of Birnin Kebbi, and the spokesperson of the Arewa Consultative Forum. As always, a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us on Daybreak, Prof.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
And also, we've been speaking with here in the studio, Alhaji Murtala Ali, former Minister of the Federal Republic, former Minister of Power and Steel, and of course, the General Secretary of the Arewa Consultative Forum, a former President of the Quantity Surveyors Registration Board of Nigeria and the Institute of Quantity Surveyors, former President of the Institute of Quantity Surveyors in Nigeria. Alhaji, thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts on this conversation. Really appreciate you very much for stopping by. Okay. All right, welcome back to the program. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Thank you very much for sticking around. Just before we take a look at the front pages, let's just cross over to Jos, the Plateau State capital, where Ado Musa is standing by, so we can get an update on that drama that is about to set in as the ousted lawmakers on the platform of the PDP making an effort to be a part of the plenary that is set to resume activities today, Tuesday. And Ado Musa is just standing by for us. Ado, good morning.
Good morning.
What can you tell us about how things are shaping up at the Plateau State House of Assembly? Have the ousted members showed up for work today?
Well, at the moment, only one of the SAC lawmaker, that is the SAC PDP lawmaker, arrived at the venue of today's plenary. So apart from him, none of the either APC or the remaining SAC PDP lawmakers have arrived the venue. But what we can see at the moment, there is security, or rather there are a lot of security personnel who are in readiness to any unforeseen circumstances. There is also a thorough checkup. Whoever is coming to the venue of this plenary will be ensured that he is properly checked. So at the moment, this is what we have at the moment.
And what are we hearing from the APC quarters, from the Muftwang administration? What are you hearing around this political standoff that is apparently set to happen?
You know, the APC has been accusing the Muftwang's administration of instigating these SAC lawmakers to return to the House. Even though we have not had any response from the government with regard to this allegation. But the APC is saying that this is what is happening on ground, and they will make sure that this plan is not achieved. Even though we are yet to see any of the APC members, that is the 7 APC members who are original members of the House at the moment. But there are a lot of accusations by the APC with regard to the current development. But
and do we know whether this resumption is bound to take place, because plenary is due to resume? They're supposed to be back in today. Is there a chance that the announcement by the ousted PDP lawmakers has changed their plans?
Well, we may not conclude at the moment, because plenary usually ends by 12. So there is that possibility that these members may come to the House by 10 or even 11. But all I know that, yes, there is that possibility that the House will sit today. Even though that some people are saying, particularly the supporters of the APC, are saying that the 16 APC lawmakers who were declared winner by the appeal court may not come to the House today in order to avoid any problem that may arise.
The PDP, the ousted PDP lawmakers have stated that they're going to arrive the Plateau State House of Assembly with their supporters. Is there any sort of political gathering around the vicinity of the State Assembly complex?
Yeah, before you come to the entrance of this particular venue, because where they are expected to have the plenary is a kind of a temporary venue, following the commencement of the renovation of the Plateau State Assembly complex. So currently they are having the plenary at the old government house. So before you get to the main entrance, we see a lot of people, even though one may not understand whether they are for this party or the other. But all we know that, yes, there are a lot of people outside the gate who are probably waiting to see what would happen. Possibly, even if maybe the members who said that, okay, the members of their constituency will also come together with them to ensure that they participate into this sitting. So what we are seeing that, yes, we have seen a lot of people, but we may not know whether they are for this party or the other party.
All right, okay. Ado Musa, thank you very much for the update. We'll keep tabs on the development, especially as the day continues to unfold, and we'll circle back in due time to hear more about some of those developments. Thank you very much for the update, Ado Musa.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Right, Adam Musa giving us a situation report from Jos, the Plateau State capital, as the ousted lawmakers on the platform of the PDP have made moves to resume plenary or be a part of the plenary, not necessarily resume, as the State Assembly reconvenes for its parliamentary activities, citing the Supreme Court ruling that reaffirmed Governor Caleb Mutfwang's victory at the polls, stating that they now have every right to reclaim their mandate. This is a developing situation that we'll keep tabs on, so stay tuned to Trust TV as we give you more updates on that front. Let's take a look at the papers now, beginning, of course, as always, with the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for today, Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024. Lackluster Nigeria reached knockout stage after beating Guinea-Bissau. Yeah. They say the ends justifies the means, so we did it anyway. Northern senators consider legal action over planned relocation of CBN and FAN offices from Abuja to Lagos. How we are living with threats of bandits, FCT and Niger communities have their experiences to share on page 3. Tinubu pushes for Kwankwaso Ganduje reconciliation. APC chair meets Kano stakeholders Thursday. What is this all about? We can learn a lot more on page 4. 335 deaths, 2,055 injuries recorded in traffic accidents in 1 month, according to the FRSC. That is definitely disturbing. 1 too many deaths as a result of negligence or certain traffic violations. Father bags life in prison for sexually assaulting 3 children. That's just horrific. And murdered Nabiha bagged first class, according to her uncle. And that is one of the most tragic incidents of the year 2024 so far. Let's turn our attention now to the Guardian newspaper for today, the front page of the Guardian newspaper. 6 years after electrification project, universities, hospitals in darkness as federal government's $105 million power project flops. And you can see a breakdown there from the infographics on the front page of the Guardian newspaper about the spectacular failure of the electrification project. 6 years on. Terrorists in military uniform abduct 30 persons in Katsina. Federal government to fund student loan scheme from education tax. And indeed, the president asked for a widening of the scope of the student loan initiative. Kidnapping. Tinubu okays emergency procurement of tracking equipment. Liberia's new president, Boakai, suffers heat stroke during inauguration. I did see the video and it was quite disturbing to say the least. But apparently he's doing well. Crisis looms as sacked Plateau lawmakers resume. Northern senators fall lopsided 2024 budget. Relocation of CBN and FAN offices. And Discourse complied to meter 715,000 users this year to reduce 8 million coverage gap. Let's see if they're going to be able to do that. Let local governments run according to the Constitution. Sounding like a broken record at this point. But it's time for us to get some perspective to some of these developments. Joining us now is the unmistakable Dr. Theophilus Abba, Programs Director of the Daily Trust Foundation. Doctor, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for...
Right, there's a lot to talk about. I don't know how much of a football fan you are, but the Super Eagles are through. And I think for most Nigerians, it's not necessarily that the Super Eagles are through. But the evening got a lot better when Ghana didn't make it and when Ivory Coast also lost their match.
Yes.
But what do you make of the AFCON results so far? Let's start on a good note.
Well, I think as far as I'm concerned, I played football like when I was in primary school. Right. So even in secondary school, I didn't play. Right. But I'm a good fan of the Nigerian team. And let me start by saying this. You know, when Nigeria played its first match with Ivory Coast, I told my children, Nigeria will win this match.
Right.
He said, no, they are not playing well. I said, don't worry, Nigeria will win.
Right. And
so I'm a supporter of the Nigerian club. Even though some persons have said, no, they didn't do well.
The team is not.
But football is, I mean, at this level, it is about scoring the match, scoring the football, the ball, and then it's about winning. You know, it's not about entertaining the crowd. You know, about
just make it to the next round.
That.
Yeah, exactly. And if you bring the trophy, nobody will remember how poorly you performed anyway. But you know, good news for the Super Eagles. They're making it to the next round of 16. But in a lot more, not necessarily good news, Northern senators are considering legal action over planned relocation of CBN and FAN offices. They made their position yesterday, talking about how they're going to see what they can do to interface with the federal government on this movement that is seemingly unpopular in the northern part of the country. What is your take on this whole development?
Well, I was thinking that the Northern Elders, Arewa Constitutional Forum, I think they even had the discussion before this program. They may have their concerns about, you know, moving some sections of the CBN to Lagos and all this and all that. But I'm thinking that if you look at the reasons that the CBN gave, you know, overpopulation, that the headquarters is overcrowded, and there's need to move some persons from the headquarters to other places. Maybe the communication was not properly done. I don't know. I'm not speaking for the CBN, but then if there is overcrowding and the CBN has other facilities, I don't see the reason why you cannot move, you know, some staff to those facilities to continue the operation. It's not like they are. I mean, the CBN wants to sack, you know, some staff. Say, look, we have discovered that, look, this facility we are using in the headquarters, you know, is too small for the number we are having. I think they are talking about over 4,000 staff, you know, using about 2,700 or 800 capacity. So I was thinking that if I were in the executive or the ACF or another elders forum, the first thing to do is to engage the CBN, you know, or even the senators. Just go to the CBN. What's happening? You know, want to know. Put these things on the table. Let us see. You know, and you express your concerns. You know, do you want to underdevelop the north? You know, that is what. That is the argument. You know, if you move these things to the south, you're actually underdeveloping the north. But then you see, something happened. You know, when Nigeria, the headquarters was moved from Lagos to, the capital was moved from Lagos to Abuja. You know, there was rapid development. Over a period of 11 years, you know, they had moved everything, almost everything from Lagos to Abuja. And then if you read the literature about movement of capitals from previous locations to new locations, it wasn't usually as quick or as fast as it happened in Nigeria. You know, if you go to, I think Pakistan moved from one to another. There are several other countries that did it. You know, so it's not like Lagos is not part of Nigeria. That is my own argument anyway. You know, the ACF, they have their concern, but I'm thinking that they should engage engage also the CBN. You know, instead of, you know, maybe looking at it as if it's something like taking so much from the north. Right.
And you know, in politics, according to this reporting on the pages of the Daily Trust, Tinubu is pushing for Kwankwaso Ganduje reconciliation. Very interesting development there. I mean, not necessarily unexpected, because he needs these two for his own political survival if he's going to contest re-election in 2027. But what are your thoughts about this one? Just when Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf survived the legal battle at the Supreme Court, he nominated Kwankwaso and his you know, fellow contender in the election, Nasiru Gawuna, into the Kano Elders Council, so to say. What are your thoughts about this one? Because the rift is still there.
But for me, you know, I think Kwankwaso and Ganduje, they've come a long way. You know, I think when Kwankwaso was governor, Ganduje was his deputy. You know, I think for the two periods he was governor, you know, then when Kwankwaso was minister, you know, Kwankwaso was with him. When he was Minister of Defense, he was with him. And I think the change, I mean, the change of baton from Kwankwaso, Kwankwaso to Ganduje. To a great extent, I think Kwankwaso played a role, ensuring that Ganduje became a governor. But you see, I think they need to reconcile for the sake of Kano. Because the tension in Kano between the Kwankwasia, I don't know whether there's Ganduje, I don't know whether there's anything like that.
They might have.
Kwankwasia and the Ganduje, it was unnecessary. Look, the victory of NNPP is actually the victory of the APC, because the majority of those who constitute NNPP, who won this election, they were actually members of the APC. If you look at it, so they've been together. And I think for the sake of development, for the sake of peace, there should be no,
Is that the angle or argument that you think can win their hearts and minds? Because I suppose many stakeholders from Kano, outside of Kano, would have made that argument years ago when the rivalry was still heating up, when Kwankwaso couldn't go back to Kano, even after he lost a parent. For 3 years, he couldn't go back to Kano. Wouldn't that argument have prevailed if it was going to work years ago?
Well, you see, I'm thinking that no matter what has happened, for the sake of Kano, there should be a kind of reconciliation, between Kwankwaso and Ganduje. They've been together over the years. And if the president is making that move, although you said, well, maybe it is to ensure that in 2027, he has a Kano that will support him, maybe if it is for that. But I don't think animosity, maybe I'm a pacifist, I don't think political animosity, all this political hatred and all this, is not good for the development of any society. Right. I don't think it's good for the development of Kano.
Okay, let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper. There's some interesting stories there that we're going to take a look at in just a moment, especially with regards to the student loan scheme. Some of the stakeholders, the committee that are working on the fine print, the technicality and things like that, have made a presentation to the president, and now we understand that the federal government is set to fund the student loan scheme from education tax. Today is January 23rd, and it's supposed to take off this month. What are your thoughts about the hitches that the loan scheme is experiencing and the last-minute fine-tuning? What are your thoughts about it?
Well, my concern is actually that if you are going to fund the loan scheme from education tax, then it means that an aspect of that tax, what the tax was used for, may be affected. You understand? Because education tax, had been earmarked for other things. I think there are several. I think UBEC benefits from it. Then you have TED Fund benefiting from it, and maybe the other institutions. Now, if you now say, okay, this money, for the loan will be taken from education tax. I'm thinking that what UBEC has been doing and what TED Fund has been doing
might be undermined.
Because if you go to many universities in Nigeria today, most of the physical infrastructure that you see, the very good ones, you very clearly state that TED Fund funded. And without UBEC, the primary education system in Nigeria, maybe primary and junior secondary school education system will be affected. Because from UBEC, their salaries are supposed to be paid.
Certain grants.
So then the development project in most of the schools, you have chairs, you have toilets, you have maybe even some textbooks, you have teaching aids, so a whole lot of things are done from that money. So if you say you're going to take this loan from that fund, I don't know.
It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yes, I'm thinking. So I don't know how effective it will be.
Okay. Yeah. And finally, just before we go, we have just a second to wrap up. The Plateau State situation, the State Assembly lawmakers. What are your thoughts about it? They seem to, be taking the position that, listen, the Supreme Court has ruled, even though it has come after their own annulment.
It's quite unfortunate that they can't go to the Supreme Court. They cannot go to the Supreme Court. And I don't know, because the law needs to be reviewed. If the governor's case can go to the Supreme Court, then, the legislator's own case should also go to the Supreme Court. Because from what we are saying, the laws the interpretation of the law, by the Court of Appeal, has come under serious criticism. If it is clear that pre-election matters should not be used to decide, the outcome of an election, then it shouldn't be so. But we saw the Court of Appeal, return to pre-election issues, and they used that to deny those who have won elections, their seats in the legislature.
And unfortunately, that is the kind of justice you can get, within the system, unfortunately. But we're going to have to leave it here for now. Dr. Abba, as always, thank you very much for your invaluable insight into some of these stories. Really appreciate the analysis.